Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'll share a few tips like procedural UVs, channel packing, path deformer and others. So in this scene I have a grid where I would like to keep squared UVs so my texture doesn't stretch, as this is the default behavior of the UV texture node. There are a few ways you can achieve this. The first one is by calculating the ratio of the incoming flat shape and use an if statement in the X and Y scale of the UVs, checking if the ratio is bigger than 1 in X and smaller in Y. Then if it's false, we can calculate the scaling factor to fit the 0 to 1 scale. We will also need to make the Y value negative so it orients properly the UVs and move them to the default UV tile using the offset Y. A simpler approach is by using the UV flatten node, which with pretty much default settings, just using the top vertices as an axis-aligned vertex group to orient the UVs. This might look like a lot of work when you can simply manually scale the UVs, but if we are doing procedural UVs it can be handy and you can always save it as a preset for later use. Now let's check an easy way of doing channel packing so we can use several vertex color channels in Unreal for instance. I have this CD attribute for the eyes which is occupying RG and B of the color attribute, but I also have a concavity mask that I would like to include in the vertex colors. So in a simple wrangle we can take a single value of the original CD and map it to the red channel, and the concavity to the green channel. If you have more, you can map it to the blue channel also. Now in Unreal we can separate the channels and apply different effects to them, in this case setting the eyes color and adding some occlusion to the concave areas. In this example I wanted to show you how I used Houdini procedural workflow to quickly create a base mesh to further sculpting in Zbrush. So I'm taking this elongated half circle, twisting it and applying some transforms while resampling and saving a curve view attribute. And then add a point in the center and saving it to a group so I can use it in a polycut to divide the curve into two prims. Finally I can sweep it, and as you can see, if I didn't cut the geometry in half, I wouldn't be able to have this particular look I was after, which is a mix between a mirror in both axes while twisting. And feeding this to a sculpting program gave me an easier time than sculpting a perfect infinity sign there. In this case I have a pattern following the shape of an half circle, and the way I'm doing that is first by starting with a chain, repeating the pieces along a curve, unpacking and path deforming it with a carved half circle. Then taking the original shape and path deforming it again. And here order of operations matters from what I've tested, so it's easier to start with the path flat and go from there. Also make sure you have the correct scale for your initial paths, you can use a measure set to length. For this one I needed to orient the legs out, so I'm starting by getting the points from the initial geo, making sure to calculate the out normals in the orient along curve. Then in the copy to points I'm keeping the normals, and if you have a deformed shape you can simply use the normal attribute in the copy to points, as it will auto-align the shapes, but in case you have a flat line, you will need to rename your normals to the up attribute so the sweep knows how to orient the polygons. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you picked up something new that you can use in your next project. Grab the example files on Patreon, and thank you for everyone that joined so far. See you next time.